Let's go over the historical data server quick setup. If you're running fake view and all of a sudden you need to record data on a trender, there is a chance that you will see the data appear out of nowhere on the right side of your trender. That means there is no previous data collected. This is the case when the historical data server is not set up or not set up properly. To find out if you have the historical data server running, go to the lower side of the screen and click and see if the application is running in the background. If it is, you will see the window for the historical data server and also data being collected and the counters increasing. This is a good example of that. If you add, after the historical data server is running, if you add a signal to a trender, as you see here, you should already see existing data, not data appearing all of a sudden on the right side. Notice that the data is being collected already by the server. You can add more signals to the trender and notice that those signals also will have pre-existing data. This is how your trender should be looking like every time you run the trender. So if your historical data server is not working, the data will reappear and will reset your trender every time you add a signal, which is not the case. If some of the data is not showing up on your graphic, double click on that line of data and adjust the min and max value. Notice that I'm trying to make some of the values appear on the trender. This modification does not change the data collection, just a visualization of the data on your trender. And this is how it should look like. Now let's go over the configuration of the historical data server. Getting back to MPC. Looking at the IP address, my HMI is node 87. And from the main screen, notice how on the lower side, the historical data server is configured with that check. That tells me that this HMI is the one that is running the historical data. Notice also how we are showing the IP address of the historical data server on the data source. In addition to that, we can have this historical data server run automatically by configuring it in the HMI, and notice how the first line shows the server ready to be run every time MPC starts. To configure the historical data server, go to the System Configurator and select the proper HMI. Notice that on the right side, we have the historical data server with a check, and also we have to press the button that says Setting. When we open the setting, a window will show up where we can configure the location of the folder for the data collection, as well as a secondary folder. We also can configure the duration in months, as well as the size of the file in megabytes. Make sure that you save the configuration every time you make any kind of modification. The second setting, after we visualize the actual file, is make sure that this file is actually collecting data. Notice that when we open this file, in this case the his data folder, we're creating, or the software is creating, this alarm collection as well as signal data collections. Notice the format is by date. So after we save the configuration on the HMI, we have to go to the system level in System Configurator. If you go to the data source, notice that on the upper side, the historical data server is showing 2 IP addresses. And those are the 2 IP addresses attached to the historical server. Make sure you download the HMI as well as the server every time you make a change. Getting back into MPC, notice that our node is 87, which concurs with the HMI on the left. And getting back to the application, on the lower right side, double click on the historical data server and ensure that you, again, have the counters going up and your window appears healthy. Thank you.